Hey guys, it's Oda King Live coming at you again from my filling up an even crazier, stuffed up gaming room. Um, Today it's going to be another storytime video. I did my anime one, so now I'm going to talk about growing up, um, pretty much in the 80s as a gaming fan. So this is going to be a story about pretty much how I got into gaming and my adventures through gaming land. So I mean, the details are going to be sketchy at best because we're talking going back 30 plus years here. So when it all started was pretty much, like most of us, 30 plus year guys, was when I got the Atari 2600. Um, as for my age, I really don't know. I must have been around probably about 6, 7. Um, I believe it was around, 1982 ish that I got it. I love that thing. I even for when I was that young, I was into collecting games. I remember, and I always remember, I had the I can't remember if I had the wood panel or just the straight black one, but I had the that whole base that it would fit in. That you could put all the games down the sides, and I always remember having 50 plus games. I always remember that at the time that I got rid of it, I believe I had like 54 games. Some of them doubles. I remember near the end of its lifespan, there was a store here in Canada at the time. It was called Zellers, and there'd just be huge boxes of games for $1. Just every game was $1, 99 cents, and I remember picking up quite a few. And I just remember, as even as a kid, just so many of them, just being blah, blah, garbage. Just well, I wish I picked up more for $1, brand new in box, but I always remember I had 2 Yars Revenge. I got another copy from a friend of the family for Christmas, birthday, whatever. And of course, being a stupid kid, I couldn't resist opening it. So I had to friggin' open it, and there went my other Yars Revenge that would have been unopened because it sat unopened forever. Oh yeah, and by the way, yes, I know I need to shave. More on that later. So, next up, I had 50 plus games, and I remember I was in grade probably like 6, 7, and a friend at school wanted it, and I ended up selling it to him. I think he had a ColecoVision or an Intellivision or something, so the Atari was kind of like a step up, sort of, for him. And I remember he wanted it, and I sold him for $200. I still remember that. It was a good deal. And then I went and bought my Nintendo because you see, my uncle had a Nintendo, and I always remember him bringing it down with Mario Brothers. Um, and it was awesome. I mean, we were playing that two-player. He was Mario, then he'd die. I was Luigi, and I had to have a Nintendo at that point. That was mind-blowing at the time. So I sold my Atari. I got $200, and I don't remember exactly how I got the Nintendo because I know I got it for Christmas. So I don't know if that money went towards it. I don't know, but I remember my parents buying me the track and field pack with the the running pad and everything. And I remember they bought it at the Byway, which was another really old store here in Canada. And I remember they came out, they shoved it all in the back of the car, and they told me not to look. And of course, being a kid again, I took a peek and I saw the Nintendo in there, and I was like, oh boy! So you know, so then I had the Nintendo. And then the Nintendo collecting began, and I remember I got one of my first games was Fester's Quest, and damn, that game was hard. But I liked it. And then, I got the Dragon Warrior through the Nintendo Power subscription for free, and that's what started me on Japanese role playing games. Was Dragon Warrior. Next off, I got Final Fantasy, and I played the heck out of that. And I always remember that game being sought after and expensive and rare, even in 1987, 88, whatever the heck it was. So I remember having a load of Nintendo games, and I sold my Nintendo to a friend. Again, this was probably grade 8. I don't remember what exactly it was, but I sold it to him for some stupid reason. And I remember selling my uncle's also to another friend in class. It was another, $200 type price range for, a whole bunch of games, system, gun, everything. I don't really remember what happened to my Nintendo exactly. But next up, I went to the Super Nintendo, and I still remember getting that too. We bought it again, different store, Consumers this time, another store that's been long gone. I remember I was with my grandmother, and we went out and we got it. Again, I used, I believe, my Nintendo money towards it. I think it was like $150. And I still remember coming back to my grandma's place. My uncle was there, and he opens the door, and I'm like, Super Nintendo. And we played, Mario World, Mario 4, whatever it was, forever. That game was amazing. Again, the console upgrades were just so mind-blowing. And I couldn't get enough of the Super Nintendo for a long time. Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat. It got crazy, and I remember he had a Genesis, and I was really big into the Nintendo Sega war back then. Teenager, Nintendo's better, graphics are better, but anyways, and then Sega has more violence and is more mature. Okay, so anyways, so I was into that for a long time, but then I hit right about what was it? Oh well. First off, I got Final Fantasy 3. I believe that was the game was $99.99, and I paid like $115 for it. And I played the heck out of it. I was really big into the JRPG at this time. I mean, I had Chrono Trigger, I had everything, and I played them all. The only one I never had was Earthbound, and I still don't have it. So, anyways, I hit about senior year. I think I was about grade 11 or so. And like all, kind of stupid, teenage kids, I was like, oh, well, I'm too cool for video games now. I need a car and chicks and stuff, and they don't like games. So I sold it all to a local store. And I had again like 50 games, and we're talking all boxed, role-playing games, everything. And I sold them all. Oh my God, I still regret it. I mean, I got pretty good money. I got a couple $100. It was probably like, in between $300 and $500. And of course, I didn't ever buy no car. And then, I don't know, I just spent the money on stupid crap, going to parties. Poofed it away. There goes all that money. What a waste. And then, regretted it. And then, took about 6 months to a year off of gaming because of this time. And then I got back into it. Probably right around when this Nintendo 64 came out. I remember a buddy in high school at the time. He worked at Zeller's, and he got like a 20% discount or something. And I remember I asked my mom, it was around Christmas time, and I was like, can I get the Nintendo 64? And she actually said yes. And I couldn't believe it because, we were, not rich by, we're middle, probably under middle class. We didn't have a lot of money, but somehow I managed to get a lot of games throughout my life. I don't know how. So either way, so I asked, and she said yes, and it blew my mind. So I ended up going with him, and I got the Nintendo 64 and, Mario 64. And yet again, the 3D Mario 64 was just like, I remember a buddy was over too, and we played it for like 6 hours straight. I mean, it was just mind-blowing at the time, and couldn't get enough of it. I still remember, wiping that whole game, completing it top to bottom. And then I remember the Christmas, it was big time for GoldenEye. I mean, like anybody, I had to have GoldenEye. A friend of the family came down, my uncle was there. And, we scoured, that was the fun days, going around all the stores, calling around, trying to find GoldenEye, and I finally found it at a Rogers Video. I had to buy extra controllers. I remember I bought Cruisin' USA too. And, man, that was one of the funnest Christmases ever. That old 4-player GoldenEye. So, 64 is pretty much what got me back into it. I remember right around the same time, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later, I don't know. I used to hang out at Microplay a lot. And this would have been right around the time I bought an Atari Jaguar. Another kind of regret purchase at the time because, man, I paid like $300 for this thing. And I got like Doom and Wolfenstein and stuff with it. And if it wasn't like a couple months later, that thing drops to like $100 and under. I got kind of boned on it. But I still have it, and of course now it's back up, so I don't feel as bad. But I had a buddy at the time wanting to sell me his for like $20, boxed and everything, and I was like, "Ew, no, I already have one," and I regret not buying that now. Still don't have the Atari Jaguar CD, man. I just, whew, that price tag. So I still don't have one of those. And then during this whole period of kind of getting back into the 64 and everything, I ended up rummaging around at the time, and I got myself a Genesis, the Sega CD. I got a 32X. I used to hang out at a microplay in college every day, and that's where I got like my Sega CD and a lot of those games, 64 games and everything, because I was in college at this point, and when the 64 was still going pretty strong, and I bought a lot of stuff there. I mean, I pretty much lived there to where he'd ask me to help him clean out the back room, and it would give me free all kinds of crap just to help him, and I had a good time. And then also during this time frame was when the PlayStation and the Xbox came out. Right about late high school, early college time. And I remember I got a PlayStation mostly, pretty much, entirely for Japanese games. I remember I got it modded, and I used to import a lot of Japanese games. Because remember, I was still into the Japanese role-playing game scene big. And I was also, as an anime fan, I was into getting in anime games. I used to play so many anime games on the PlayStation. And then the PlayStation 2, same situation. I used to go to this place called Dragon Center, some Chinatown place, and they used to hook me up with all the Japanese games for my modded systems. I had the PS2 too. I bought brand new there to get modded games. So and then my Xbox, the original Xbox I had for Halo. Halo came out. That game for shooters blew my mind, and that's what got me into shooters. I don't play a lot of Japanese role-playing games anymore. I don't know why. I play a lot of Dynasty Warriors, things like that, newer systems, and but mostly I play stupid games like Call of Duty and stuff, because I'm addicted to them. But it was Halo that started me on that path, so blame it. So let me see what else. Because I had the PlayStation. I still have it here. I still have my original PlayStation. My Xbox. My Xbox. The house got hit by lightning one day and fried it, so I had to buy a new one. But I still have the old brick around here somewhere. My Atari Jaguar is still in box here. My Nintendo that I sold back in the day, I actually got back from my friend. A couple of years later, he got out of it, and I bought it back from him. I don't remember if he had many of the games still. I don't think he did, but I got my original Nintendo back. I still know that. So I still have 3 of them laying around here somewhere, because back then, probably around the Super Nintendo time, maybe even a little later, maybe 64 time, most of my games for Nintendo were actually coming from the garbage. My dad was a garbage man. And this is when retro games weren't, they weren't that retro yet, and they weren't worth anything, pretty much. They were worth $1. And people would just throw them out. So pretty much, every couple days my dad would drag me home another Nintendo and 10 games. I at one point I had 20 Nintendos, to where, stupidly enough, the ones that were kind of like a little yellowed or kind of beat up, I was smashing them for fun. I just had so many of them. I ended up breaking quite a few of them, and then the rest I took down to a local pawn shop place, and I was selling them there for like $20 a pop, because they started to gain traction at that point. So I kept my 3 that were really good shape, and I went from there. Next up was the Super Nintendo. I still remember a buddy of mine getting a really good deal from a recycle place. He bought like 20 Super Nintendos and 20 Genesis systems. I know most didn't have cords or anything or controllers, but he paid like $1 each for them. And he ended up selling them all for like $3 each, kind of thing. And oh my god, I wish I bought them all now, because considering what Super Nintendos and stuff go for now, I could have made a killing with all those. Never mind. Never mind, I just wouldn't mind having another couple laying around anyways, because I only got 2, and one's my original in the box, and I don't know what the other one is. Probably some yellow godforsaken thing. So, anyways, and then after the PlayStation, I got into the PS2, and then I started just kind of really becoming an Xbox guy at this time. And once the Xbox 360 came out, I didn't have internet high speed for a couple years, so I never really played online for a couple years. I lived in the country, so it wasn't until I moved to the city later that I got into online gaming. But I pretty much solely became an Xbox guy. I mean, I have a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4. I don't play them too much. You know, I don't really have a lot of time. I have a Nintendo Wii. I did play it quite a bit. I mean, me and my buddies, we camped out one night for the Wii launch. We ended up staying in the car for like 12 hours. It's on, we have film of it because, I used to film that kind of stuff for fun. And we had a good time. And I got the Wii, and that was kind of another regret purchase because, it was kind of bad. And I was kind of sad about it later. I have lots of Nintendo Game Boys. I've always been a Pokemon fan. So I got Game Boys up the wall. They're everywhere. And, now I mostly play Xbox One. It's really the only console that's hooked up, in the main room. I got some retro consoles hooked up back there, but they're lost in time. A couple other systems I'll mention quickly here is just the TurboGrafx. My uncle had one. I never got one because he had one, and we used to play it a little bit, not a lot. I ended up getting one much later, in a retro kind of pickup when I got back into gaming. But Neo Geo, I still don't have one. I just don't want to pay $200 something for one. What other consoles did I miss here? I'm sure there's a few. I mean, a Saturn, the Dreamcast. My uncle, again, he was, like I said, the Sega kind of guy. He had the Saturn. I used to buy games for the Saturn, but I never really had my own. So, again, I picked one up later. Dreamcast, same situation. I used to have tons of import games for the Dreamcast. I had like 100 of them or 200 of them or something for the Dreamcast without actually owning one because it was his. So again, I had to pick up another Dreamcast for myself when I moved out. And I guess that's about it. That was pretty much my life growing up as a gamer. Back in the day, back in the 80s, or 90s, back in public school time, I used to take a lot of crap for being a gamer. It was not cool to be into video games back then. Girls would tease you. I mean, it was a nightmare. Thankfully, I was a pretty big guy, so it was a bit of a nightmare in those days. But whatever, you get through it. And then once I find about when the PlayStation came out, when sports games started getting really popular, it became a lot more mainstream and it became a lot less nerdy. I was in the Nintendo fan club way back in the day. That's why for this video I had to wear my Ultra 64 hat. If you know, this was the original name for the Nintendo 64 before they changed it. So I have some gear laying around before it was released that is official Nintendo Ultra 64 product. What else we got? Trying to kind of get a lot of this out at once here. I guess that was really about it. I've been into gaming for a long time, and like most people, you get out of it for a little bit. You get into high school, you get out of it for a little bit, you get back into it, you get out of it again, you get back into it. Thankfully, I've kept most of my stuff, so my collecting has been, I've only sold it all once. That one time in high school, and that was it. Oh, and as a little side note, the first Super Nintendo game my dad ever bought me was Castlevania 4. And I remember being really upset because I don't remember what I wanted. I wanted something stupid. But he brought me home that instead. And I was like, no, why? I was all upset. And then I played it, and the game was friggin' epic. And I had, for such a classic game, I still remember that it was a mistake purchased by my dad. And I got one like that kind of situation for pretty much every system I own. I had a pretty good gaming upbringing, and no, I don't regret any of it except selling all my Super Nintendo stuff that time because I thought it was cool. Oh dear God, what a waste that was. So anyways, that was my story time growing up as a gamer. This video is going to take 17 hours to upload. And, see you next time for my next story time. Peace.